Now, troubleshooting this, generally you want to locate any kind of wireless access point connectivity to the center of the cell that you're trying to cover. Unless, of course, you're having a directional antenna, whether it be highly directional antenna like a Yagi antenna, which you could use for building-to-building type connectivity for wireless, or a patch antenna, which is an angled antenna. So down a very long hallway, you might use a patch antenna for coverage down the hallway. You want to avoid any kind of metal surfaces when you're deploying your access points. Things like file cabinets are definitely a no-no if that's where you're trying to deploy your access point, because you're going to get a lot of reflection and refraction from those metal objects. So if you're planning on connecting to that access point, not only do you not want to deploy the access point near the metal objects, but you want to make sure that your line of sight of the devices that are connecting to them aren't in the way of those objects as well. Check your security levels. Obviously, that's one of the big troubleshooting issues, is making sure the security settings are configured properly for the clients and for the network itself. Once you get the security mechanisms in place, though, it's usually not so much of a problem. There's a lot of things that can interfere with your wireless network. Everything from, my favorite one is a microwave. Everything works fine until somebody puts something in the microwave and makes microwave popcorn for the office, and now all of a sudden, the wireless network is down. A good microwave shouldn't be bleeding out that much RF. It should be shielded, but a lot of microwaves don't do a great job of actually shielding all the microwaves that it's emitting, and you end up with a bunch of bleed over of RF, which could hit into the 2.4 or 5 gigahertz frequencies and disrupt your wireless network. If you're dealing with a large office network and you need more than 1 or 2 access points, you might run into problems with roaming and deal with those kind of issues. That's kind of above and beyond what we need to cover in this course, but at least you're aware of the possibility. So if you're deploying in a large environment, you need to have a strong antenna and a lot of EIRP, which is the equivalency isolated radiated power. So the amount of power you're actually pumping out via the antenna needs to increase so that it covers a wide enough area. On that end of things, you also can't put too much power into it, otherwise you might be breaking the local regulations of either at the FCC here in the States or the ETSI in Europe. So the regulation body has control over how much power you actually push to your antenna, and if you're trying to cover a relatively large area, you may not be able to put an antenna out there that's strong. So you might have to put 2 or 3 or several access points to cover the kind of cover the area that you want to give wireless access to. Now, lastly, you want to make sure your access points are on a unique channel and not used by any other access points in the area. And this can actually be one of the bigger problems, especially in multi-tenant buildings, whether it's an apartment building and your home users are trying to use it, trying to connect back to headquarters and they're using that as their network. Or if it's a small office type environment and you've got a lot of other small offices in the same business complex, all of them want to use wireless. Usually in those situations, especially if you're using BG, you end up with issues where you don't have unique channels and everybody's stepping on top of each other with respect to the 3 non-overlapping channels. Usually in those cases, it's better to migrate over to A to make sure that you have your own unique channel and you're not going to be stepping on anybody else, and you get 54 megabits. Now, it costs you a little bit more for that kind of service to pay for the wireless clients that are A rated as well as the access points because it's not as popular as BG. But the advantage is because it's not as popular, not as many people are deploying it, so you're not going to have as hard of a time connecting to a unique channel within your environment.